All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Lord Vajradhara Dilipa Naropa Marpa Milarepa Gampopa Pa Modupa Jikten Sumgon Venerable root Guru, possessing the three kindnesses, root and lineage Gurus, idams, dharmapalas, pray please bestow blessings on my mind stream. Unequal refuge, ornament of the world, whose renown pervades the 3,000 worlds, the undisputed conqueror Vajradhara. I pay homage to you, the Father Jikten Sumgon. You alone are continually on my mind, compassionate one. Please grant your blessings, dispel the darkness of my mind. Please bless me to realize the mind free from elaborations. On the northwest border of the land of Udayana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of Dakinis, following in your footsteps. I pray to you. Come inspire me with your blessings, Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. In the Dharmadhatu palace of Akanishta is the essence of the Buddhas of the three times, who directly reveals my mind as Dharmakaya. O root Guru, at your feet I supplicate. So today, the order of our practice is a little different. We're going to now look at the book. Then we will close out with the aspirations and dedication prayers. Now on page 56, becoming free of wrong ideas about dependent origination. So clarifying some of the points on this topic of dependent origination. So here, I think it becomes clear. When Gilbert Rinpoche talks about dependent origination in this teaching, he's not necessarily, again, referring to the dependent origination of the 12 links. And that's a very famous kind of dependent origination in the 12 links. Here, when he's talking about dependent origination, he's really emphasizing the aspect of dependent origination that you and I, experience as how karmic causality works, and how actions have results, and the importance of not forgetting that this principle of action and results, cause and effect, doesn't go away, because Buddhas have realized Buddhahood. This is kind of the central point. And then, also equally important, emptiness doesn't get compromised. Emptiness doesn't get disregarded in this strong emphasis on karmic causality. In fact, it is because of the nature, it is because the fundamental nature is empty, free from fixity, free from inherent nature, fixed nature. That's why cause and effect can actually take place. So here, becoming free of wrong ideas about dependent origination. In this context, some Gomchen, we have come across this term, right? Gomchen, literally great meditators. Whenever Gilbert Rinpoche uses Gomchen, he uses this term in ironic, perhaps you could even say sarcastic. I don't know if we're allowed to say Gilbert Rinpoche has sarcasm. But yeah, he's sort of like we would say, great meditator, right? We would do this. Oh, those balloons are coming now. I think somebody pointed out, yes, when you put your fingers up like this, balloons and yeah. So let's see. Oh wait, any more? Ah, here it comes. Okay. So now we know the cause and effect of this. See, before we know, right, we think it's all just some kind of mysterious magic going on. No, everything has its causality. Whether we suffer when a particular cause and effect turns up, whether we suffer, whether we don't suffer, whether we enjoy, whether we are neutral, that depends on our mind to train. But the arising of those conditions continues. So it said, Buddha Shakyamuni, clearly, you could see in his life his disciples have to undergo hardships. Sometimes no food, sometimes bad food, and the Buddha's body is harmed. The Buddha has bad digestion, but no suffering. But no suffering doesn't mean, causality has ceased. Not so. So here, in this context, some Gomchens might think that in the state of the Gomchen Dharma, of great luminosity, so these great meditators, right? They have experienced, they say, now I'm in a state of experiencing great luminosity, so a very profound state of realization. Some may say, in that state, an absence of the ripening of results from causes makes sense. Like, yes, when you have achieved this profound state, the ripening of cause and effect is over now. And that all kinds of conventional activities don't make sense or don't matter anymore. Well then, while saying that everything is emptiness, don't they still experience hunger and cold when they don't eat food and don't wear clothes? Isn't that cause and result? I'm reminded of this documentary, in case you have not watched it yet, and you have some time. I think it's available on YouTube, the entire documentary called Amongst White Clouds. It's a documentary on the ascetic traditions in China in the modern times. There are still both Buddhist and Taoist monks and nuns in some of these mountains conducting extended retreats. So they featured these two monks who came up to the mountains. They were maybe in their middle age when they were featured there. These two monks that came up to the mountains to basically live the rest of their lives in the mountains. And so they first lived in the same hut that they helped, they both built. And then after a while, they built a second one so that they could be in different retreat huts. In this sense of retreat, it's not like they're leaving at any point. They're planning to stay the whole life. But anyway, one of them was asked, he was this particular clip section of this documentary, he was sitting on this big rock and kind of relaxed. And so the producer of this film, this this American kid at this point, and now he has produced a few other videos. I've not watched yet, but I've been wanting to watch. One about the monastic life and monastic discipline in one of these monasteries in China. I think it'd be inspiring to watch that. But here he started off with the ascetic traditions up in the mountains. And so he was, oh, nature, nature, he kept talking about nature, how wonderful, how beautiful, how great that you guys are out here, away from all the unnatural things, By that he means like the city, the noise, the busyness, the, going to work and, paying bills, all of that, So this interviewer, this American kid, isn't it wonderful, you're now living with nature, in nature, and everything is natural. So he just went on and on about nature, nature, nature. In a way, like in here, emptiness, emptiness, realization, great luminosity. And finally, this monk, he said, nature, what's nature? And in Chinese, nature also has the connotation like in English, natural too. And so he says nature or natural. What's nature? What's natural? And he says, if I sit here and I'm hungry, will my stomach naturally become full? And it says, and if I continue to sit here and it gets cold, will the blanket in my room, naturally come out and wrap around me? Nature, nature. Natural, natural, he says, His point is like, no, I still have to put on clothes. I still need to get my blanket. It's hungry, I have to go cook food and eat. What's this like fetishization? What is this, obsession with nature, nature, You have to act, you have to do. It's how you act and how you do. Right? Then, of course, we say, choose skillful actions. But not just that, right? That's good. Choose skillful actions. Act in a way that is good for ourselves and good for others. But as we do that, we also need to develop understanding of dependent origination free from the 8 extremes, right? The emptiness aspect. Now, otherwise, as we saw yesterday, he says, oh no, this is another class where Gilbert Rinpoche says, that even if you are very good at observing disciplined conduct, if you don't have insight, it will only lead to a good human existence or an existence in the God realm. You still cannot be free from this cycle. But if disciplined conduct is established on the basis of understanding and insight, so here in this context of this teaching, it's dependent origination free from the 8 extremes of elaborations. Not asserting cause and result while resting in the nature of mind lies in the nature of that meditative absorption. So here Khyentse Rinpoche is maybe helping to trace where this idea comes from. That, when you have realized great luminosity, cause and effect don't exist anymore. He says, this comes from when you are in formal state of meditation, and your mind your mind arrives at a place where there's no subject or object. While you're absorbed, in this sense of absorbed, while you are settled in that state of mind, then of course, cause and effect is not something that turns up in your mind. Yeah? It lies in the nature of that particular meditative absorption, but cause and effect still exist by fundamental nature. But at that time, the I, meaning you cannot see it. When in that time when your mind is in the meditative absorption of great luminosity or emptiness, he says, then you don't see it. Yeah, you don't see it. In other words, when the mind is settling in the ultimate truth aspect of reality, then of course, cause and effect is not explicit. But that's the thing, it's just not explicit. In fact, generally, again, other traditions accept that in terms of this, the meditation and post-meditation being the two states, meaning the mind in a meditative state and the mind when not. Right now, non-practitioners don't even know what it means for the mind to be settled in a meditative state. Then as we learn to work with the mind, when we learn how to let the mind settle and settle and settle more naturally, then more and more we will be in the meditative state. And during the meditative state, of course, no appearances can interrupt you. When you get really good at it, no appearances can interrupt you. So you're in the meditative state. Then when you arise from that, that's called the post-meditative, then appearances re-emerge. So then there's the separation between meditation and post-meditation. Prior to engaging the path, no experience of meditative. While on various stages of the path of the process, it says, initially the meditative state is short, post-meditation is long. Then as you develop your abilities, meditative state becomes longer and longer and longer, post-meditation becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. But it says that up to the level of the 10th level bodhisattva, even the 10th level bodhisattva still have this division into meditative state and post-meditative state. Even if at this point, maybe at the 10th level, the post-meditative state is very short, very brief. Yeah. Still, there is a division. But at the 11th bhumi of a Buddha, it says post-meditation and post-meditation has become no different. And if you explain this process in terms of relative truth and ultimate truth, then untrained ordinary beings are completely only capable of experiencing all the various aspects of relative truth, and most of the time, even that, mistaken relative truths. What are mistaken relative truths? There are many ways of explaining that. According to Kyoba Rinpoche, he says the main explanation you need to get is negative actions that bring about suffering. He says, that's my definition of mistaken relative truth. Other people define it slightly differently, but they're pointing in the same direction, but they define it differently. So a friend of mine who studies Pema Karpo, this great Drupal Kagyu Lama, a few more generations later than Kyopa Jikten Sumgon, Pema Karpo says, mistaken relative truth is the perception of beings, sentient beings, the perception of sentient beings as not being able to perceive sentient beings as Buddhas, and not being able to perceive this physical universe as pure land. He says that's mistaken relative truth. You can see they're pointing in the same direction, but Kyoba Rinpoche uses, vocabulary and uses expression that emphasizes something. I would, of course, I'm biased. I would say something more basic, more practical. So he says, what is mistaken relative truth is the kind of relative truth, that gives rise to suffering. Then there's more philosophical definitions of mistaken relative truth, which is like if you study Madhyabanka, you study logic, they have their ways of parsing out what is mistaken relative truth and what is relative truth without mistakes. So at the level of someone who is untrained, no training, then we only see relative truth, and even that, usually mistaken relative truths. Then when we start to embark on the path, when we are now, in the process of waking up, then relative truth and ultimate truth, we catch glimpses of ultimate truth, then we begin to see more clearly what is unmistaken relative truth. Relative truth, there's also the unmistaken, which in Kyoba Rinpoche's context is skillful actions that bring about happiness, temporary happiness, and long-term happiness. But nonetheless, right, through this process on the path, seeing emptiness and seeing cause and result still are two separate moments of mind. Up until the 10th level bodhisattva. Only in that of a Buddha, these two are united, inseparable. In the same moment of mind that Buddha perceives emptiness, Buddha also perceives cause and effect. So what Kyoba Rinpoche is saying here is not something that he made up. This is just an emphasis, his emphasis. So continuing, then in the context of that dependent origination, free from the 8 extremes of elaboration, that manifests as cause and result, when there is when there are conditions that turn up, you might ponder, you might start thinking, is the result present in the nature of the cause, or is it what is left over after the cause has ceased, or does it precede the cause, and so on and so forth? What are these questions? You say. In fact, you might go, wait, how come I don't ask these questions? What are these questions? These are the philosophical tradition, the logician tradition, that he knows some of his students have trained in these kind of reasonings. But he says, for the purpose of training the mind right now, what I'm teaching you, these kinds of questions, no use, he says. He says, while such considerations seem very profound, they're actually superficial. Do not pursue them. These are the standard questions that when you go to a Buddhist seminary, you go to a Shedra, Tibetan tradition today especially says, you are a well-educated monk when you have considered these questions. You're a well-educated nun when you have considered these questions. So in other contexts, this kind of questioning, wait, does the result already exist in the cause? Or is the result a residual? So they use example of let's see, milk and yogurt, Is yogurt the result of the destruction of milk? And does yogurt exist in milk when it is just milk? Questions like this. Yeah, so he says, you might want to start relating emptiness on the one hand and cause and result on the other hand. You might want to take that and put it in this way of questioning. You might want to start, he says, I know some of you are going in that direction now. Wait, you say cause and dependent origination of cause and effect arises from dependent origination of freedom from 8 extremes. So are you saying that cause and effect exists within emptiness already, and somehow due to some reasons, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't come out? Basically, he's saying these kinds of reasonings, these kinds of philosophical arguments, he says, may seem very profound, they're actually superficial, don't pursue them. Many Buddhist geishas, kempos, they are trained in this, We're not saying don't train in this, but Gilbert Rinpoche is saying, when it comes to really training the mind, like Lojong, to remove self-grasping, to remove the poisons, to remove the kleshas, those seemingly profound questions, put them aside. Instead, you should ask yourself, he says, if you want to ask questions, you should ask yourself whether Buddha nature and wholesome and unwholesome habitual tendencies are left behind after any of the afflictions has arisen, or whether they precede or are inseparably present with it. In other words, he says, instead you should ask, given that we accept that our nature is Buddha, so that's one thing that we accept. Then, when wholesome and unwholesome habits, when afflictions arise, where has Buddha nature gone? Dependent origination, free from the 8 extremes, arises as the 3 afflictions, the 3 poisons. And those afflictions themselves are, by fundamental nature, that dependent origination, free from the 8 extremes. Not exactly a logical answer. By the standards of logicians. But what he is saying here is, because of emptiness nature, the afflictions can arise. Non-virtues can arise. Likewise, virtue can also arise. So, what matters is actions on a relative level. In some ways, right, what is on the ultimate level or the ultimate aspect, you don't need to worry about that because it's the ultimate. Nothing you do. Happiness and suffering is not happening on that ultimate aspect. And since the whole point of us practicing the Dharma is because we want happiness, we don't want suffering, right? So then what matters is what we do from this relative side of things. So he says here, actually, the three afflictions arise from the fact that it's not caused. The three afflictions is not caused by the emptiness nature of things or the emptiness nature of your mind. But the emptiness nature of things or the emptiness nature of your mind, which is the same emptiness, makes it possible for afflictions to arise. There's a difference between saying that it's the cause and saying that makes it possible for. Here we are to understand that the dependent origination free from the eight extremes or emptiness merely makes it possible for afflictions to arise. As well makes it possible for the five primordial wisdoms to arise. Given that, we have to choose what we want to arise. The causes and results of suffering or the causes and results of happiness. He says, therefore it is taught that desire belongs to the family of the Tathagatas. And not only desire, right? Aggression belongs to the family of the Tathagatas. Ignorance belongs to the family of the Tathagatas. Here we're talking about like the five Buddha families. When in Tantra, in Secret Mantra, it said that the five kleshas, each of the klesha can be identified with one of the Buddha families. And that teaching sometimes have caused also misunderstanding. People who are not properly guided in how to practice, what are the implications of saying, for example, like desire is the lotus family. Anger is the Vajra family. Confusion is the Buddha family. Jealousy is the karma family. And pride is the jewel family. What it means here is that fundamental nature is emptiness, but it arises based on conditions into something we like and something we don't like. Happiness and suffering. Now, going on, he says, is the state of meditative absorption forsaken by the ensuing consciousness, meaning post-meditation, or is it present in the ensuing consciousness? If meditative absorption were abandoned, wouldn't you feel very sorry for the ensuing consciousness? Meaning, when you have to get up from your seat, Here I don't, truthfully, I don't follow necessarily his reasoning or what he is intending to say here. Maybe some other day it will become clearer. But the sense I'm getting here is he's saying, you should ask, instead of abstracts like, do the result exist in the cause? And is the result a remnant of the cause, disappearing, those types of questions. Instead, he says you should ask, meditation and post-meditation. And when you enter into the post-meditation state, which means coming out of the meditation state, is that meditation now gone? Right? If it is gone, right, then why do you want to go from meditation to post-meditation? Right? It's almost like he's not really asking a question where there's an exact answer. Right? He's asking kind of rhetorically, and say, you go, not, I wanted to say, you go think about this. But no, I don't think he's saying you go think about this. He says, you go pay attention to these two experiences, and then discover for yourself what the answer is. A lot of these, Gilbert Rinpoche is emphasizing, please, I'll give you some ideas, I'll use some words, but you should go discover what this means through your own experience. So let us take a quick break. I have my yard person here for the first time. It turned up earlier than my schedule. We'll take a quick break and then we'll do the aspiration and dedication. Yeah. Okay, now let's go to dedication. The aspiration text. Yeah. Starting with the extracted from the Mahasutra on entering the city of Vaiśālī. He in whom all attachment and greed are conquered, all defilement gone, his mind at peace without harmful intent. He will bring you well-being, he who leads all worldly beings to tread the path of liberation, the teacher of all dharmas. He will bring you well-being, the teacher, support of wandering beings who, for the sake of every living creature, brings them all to master happiness. He will bring you well-being, the protector who with thoughts of love for all these beings, sustains them always just as he would his only child. He will bring you well-being, he who in samsara has been for all samsaric beings a support, an island, and a friend. He will bring you well-being, he who has laid bare all phenomena, who is pure and free from deception, whose words are pure, whose very acts are purity. He will bring you well-being. This great hero who by taking birth with perfection attain his purpose and accomplish all his goals. He will bring you well-being, he whose birth when this whole earth with all its forests shook and trembled, brought joy for every living creature. He will bring you well-being. He who caused on the seed of awakening the earth to quake in all 6 ways and Mara to feel despair. He will bring you well-being, he who turning the wheel of the Dharma pronounced the truths of the noble ones and was extolled as a sage, the Muni. He will bring you well-being, the alluring one who defeated all the extremists with the Dharma and brought all assemblies under his influence. He will bring you well-being. May the Buddha bring you well-being. May Chakra and the gods bestow well-being. And may well-being from the Buddhas too be provided to you always by the Buddha's merit and power. And the wishes of the gods, may whatever goal you seek this very day be accomplished. Two-legged beings be well, four-legged beings be well. When you set out, be well, and when you return, be well. Be well in the daytime, be well in the night, be well at midday too. May all of you be always well. May all of you know no evil, surrounded by 1,000 gods. The Buddha has arrived. So you with hateful thoughts disperse, and you whose nature is compassion stay. By the power of the true words of the Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Arhats, and those being trained, those who do harm to the world should be gone from this city. All sentient beings, all living creatures, all Buddhas, and every one of you, may you have nothing but happiness. May you all be free from illness. May you all see what is good. May all of you know no evil. May whatever Buddhas are assembled here, all those who live upon the earth or in the sky, act always lovingly for human beings and practice Dharma day and night. Homage to the three jewels. In this world or beyond, there is nothing, not even a precious gem in the higher realms, that equals the thus gone one, the God of gods, the supreme among humans. Thus he is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. There is nothing at all comparable to the dharma of uncompounded, quiescent ambrosia, the uncompounded ambrosia of extinction and dispassion, discerned by the sage of the Shakyas through his knowledge. Thus it is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. There is nothing comparable to the absorption that perceives the Vajra-like non-dual path, the manifestation in due order of what is most desired, the permanent accomplishment of the teacher's absolute practice. Thus it is called the most precious gem. By this truth may there be well-being here. The 8 great kinds of persons praised and called, the 4 pairs extolled by venerable as venerable by the thus gone one. The incomparable person, the great sage, yield great fruits when offered to, like seeds planted in the fertile field. This is called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here, since those who strive with firm resolve and enter Gautama's teaching gain access to ambrosia, remove darkness and attain nirvana. They are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. As soon as they connect with this vision, belief in the transitory collection, ethical discipline in the form of extreme austerity, and doubt are simultaneously cast off, and they see the truths of the noble ones. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. With body, speech, or mind, they never produce the threefold evil deeds, and even when they suddenly do, they do not conceal them, and in that way their view is not tainted with grasping. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Just as a threshold beam planted in the ground is unmoved by winds from the 4 directions, so are the members of the Sangha of noble ones who have insight into the highest path of the noble ones. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Those who cultivate this profound wisdom, the eloquently taught truths of the noble ones, and consider giving away even their own bodies, never encounter the 8 perils. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. Just as a flame extinguished by the wind cannot be taken up and counted, So do the offspring of the Buddhas become indemonstrable once they have discarded all fetters. Thus they are called the most precious gem of the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being here. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here, and may they pay homage to the Buddha, the supreme teacher, venerated by gods and humans. May there be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May they pay homage to the Dharma, the peaceful dispassion venerated by gods and humans. May there be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May they pay homage to the Sangha, the supreme assembly venerated by gods and humans. May there be well-being here today. May all sentient beings moving or still be well here. May whatever Buddhas are assembled here, all those who dwell upon the earth or in the sky, act always lovingly toward all creatures and practice Dharma day and night. By the truth that the victorious one, having vanquished his foes, spoke truthfully without falsehood. May there be well-being here, and may all be delivered from grave perils. By the majesty of the Buddhas, the majesty of the particular Buddhas, the power of the Arhats, and all the secret mantra holders, by the wisdom of Shariputra, the supernatural power of Moggayayana, the vision of Aniruddha, and the ascetic practices of Kashyapa, by the previous attainments of Kaundinya, the learning of Ananda, the benevolence of Brahma, and the supremacy of Shatakratu, by the territories of the guardians of the world, the power of Maheshwara, the might of the generals, and the supernatural splendor of Hariti. Through their might and majesty, may poison be removed from me. In the language of India, Arya Maitri Pranidhana Raja. In the language of Tibet, Pagpa Champe Munlam Kigyalpo. In the English language, the noble Maitreya is king of aspirations. Homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ananda, in the past, when the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya was engaged in the Bodhisattva practices, he would drape his upper robes over one shoulder, bend his right knee to the ground, and join his palms together. 3 times a day and 3 times a night, he would then concentrate on all the Buddhas and make the following aspiration. Homage to all Buddhas, homage to the Bodhisattvas, and who possess the divine vision of seers, and homage to the hearers as well. Homage to bodhicitta, the heart of awakening that keeps the lower realms at bay, that shows us the way to the higher realms and leads us to a state beyond aging and death. I go beyond the awakened ones to confess any and all misdeeds that I may have committed while under the sway of mind. May all merit occurred through the 3 kinds of actions become a seed for my omniscience and inexhaustible awakening. The Buddhas are aware and rejoice in any offering made to the awakened ones throughout the Buddha fields of the 10 directions. And so do I too rejoice and hereby confess all negative actions. I hereby rejoice in everything meritorious. I hereby pay homage to all Buddhas. May I attain the supreme wisdom state. I exhort each and every bodhisattva dwelling in the 10 directions and upon the 10 bodhisattva levels to awaken now to supreme enlightenment. And as they awaken to sublime enlightenment, may they turn the wheel of Dharma so as to tame the demons and all their hordes and bring benefit to every living being. May the beat of the great drum of Dharma free beings from their suffering for unimaginable billions of eons. May the awakened ones teach Dharma and remain I beg you, best of humans, look upon us drowning in the mud of desires, bound by the ropes of craving, and in other ways absolutely trapped. May the Buddhas not level criticism against those of impure minds. Instead, may they give love to beings and be free and free them from the ocean of existence. May I train in the likeness of the perfectly awakened Buddhas of the present, past, and future, and uphold the bodhisattva conduct. May I bring to completion the 6 perfections and lead to the end the 6 classes of beings. May I manifest at last the 6 super knowledges and reach the unsurpassed state of awakening. May I realize the truth of emptiness in which all is birthless and non-arising, without intrinsic nature, without location, and neither mental process nor substance. Just like the great sage, the Buddha himself, may I realize the truth of selflessness in which beings do not exist, nor any living things, nor any individual, nor any kind of person. May I practice generosity free from stinginess without entertaining any notion of substantiality, nor any belief in the self, nor egotistical clinging, so that the benefit may reach all beings. Since material things do not exist concretely, may all my needs be spontaneously met. May all material things, since all material things are subject to decay, may I master the perfection of generosity with discipline completely flawless, discipline that is perfectly pure, and discipline devoid of arrogance. May I master the perfection of discipline with absence of anger, in other words, with patience, akin to how the earth, water, and fire elements, and the wind element as well, dwell not anywhere. May I complete the perfection of patience. With persistent application of diligence, may I be ever joyful and free from laziness. And with strength in both body and mind, may I complete the perfection of diligence. With illusion-like meditative concentration and bravery-inspiring meditative concentration and Vajra-like meditative concentration, may I master the perfection of meditation. Acting with the 3 gates of liberation, with the equality of the 3 times and the threefold knowledge, may I master the perfection of wisdom. May I be praised by all Buddhas as I beam with light and splendor and with the diligence of a bodhisattva. May all my aims be accomplished as I engage in this very conduct. May I, the one known as Maitreya, bring to completion the 6 perfections and reach the 10 bodhisattva levels. At the very moment I pass away, may I joyfully take rebirth into Shita heaven, and swiftly delighting the Lord Maitreya, receive his prophecy of my awakening. Changju Sem Churim Puji Ma Ge Banam Ge Gyurji Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yam Gong Ne Gong Du Bil Wan Shung. I want to quickly point out, starting on page 21, may I realize the truth of emptiness in which all is birthless and non-arising. And then may I practice generosity free from stinginess without entertaining any notions of substantiality at the bottom of 21. Then to the top of 22. There, it's training in ultimate bodhicitta. Then after that, the 6 perfections, training in relative bodhicitta. Yeah. So often, we're more familiar with the other way around, training in relative, then training in ultimate. Here it begins that first. But you also see this in the 6 Lojong in 7 points. Also, in the second point, with 10 statements, first 5 statements is training in ultimate bodhicitta, next 5 statements training in relative bodhicitta. Likewise, the discussion we've been having, right? The dependent origination free from the 8 extremes, the dependent origination that is free from the 8 extremes, the dependent origination that is the state of freedom from the 8 extremes, and the dependent origination that arises as cause and effect. This is also related to ultimate bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta. See that? Yeah, goes back to the first teaching. Everything that we practice needs to be understood in the context of actualizing the 2 bodhicittas. Other than that, there's nothing else to practice. There's nothing more than that, and anything less than that will not bring the result that we're seeking. So you all have a good weekend. If you are participating in Singhamukha, I will see you tomorrow. If not, have a good holiday weekend. For many of you, it's Easter weekend. Then we will resume this on Monday. Bye-bye, everyone.